Turning now to Washington, where Senate Dems plan an all-night talk-a-thon to draw attention to climate change. I hear they'll be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, Crystal. 28 Dems, led by Senators Barbara Boxer and Sheldon Whitehouse, will take to the floor to urge action as part of the recently formed Senate Climate Action Task Force. The event begins after voting in the Senate has ended for the day and is planned to last until 9 a.m. tomorrow. So I know what Luke Russer's doing tonight, but will this actually accomplish anything? No specific legislations even being offered up for a vote or any timetable for any action this year. Joining us now to talk the politics behind this move are the Grio's Perry Bacon and Democratic strategist Erikka Knuti. Erikka, first to you. What's the purpose of this all-nighter? Is this more than just political theater?
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing, the biggest problem is that Congress is in deadlock, right? So if you can't get anything done, and if the conversation around climate change is so toxic that you have climate deniers, not just at your home states, but also even on the committees, what's the way to, combat that? You change the conversation. So this is really about starting a dialogue, changing the context in which climate change is addressed within the Senate. I mean, literally, it's not like immigration, okay? So immigration, everybody agrees that there's a big problem, that there's something, the system's broken, needs to be fixed. Climate, half the kind of team that's supposed to be leading our country forward doesn't even agree that the problem exists at all. Senator Inhofe, who's the chair of the Environment and Public Works Committee, is legitimately a climate denier who's written books about it, who's gone out and talked about it at various conferences. Mitch McConnell also came out against climate change, saying that he wasn't sure that man really had any impact and that there could be anything that could be done right after this task force was announced. So you see a situation where legislation isn't going to move forward. So continuing to put legislation out there isn't going to be the solution. You got to try something different. So if Ted Cruz can get as much attention as he did for his talk-a-thon, why not take a page of that playbook and play it ourselves?
Perry Bacon, I want you to get in the time machine with me, because you were with me in the Speaker's lobby in July of 2009 when Nancy Pelosi muscled through that cap-and-trade bill, 219 to 212. 44 Democrats opposed it. And what happened to that cap-and-trade bill back then? She sent it over to the U.S. Senate, and Harry Reid would not move on it because he wanted to protect vulnerable red state Democrats ahead of the 2010 midterms. This time around, which Democratic senators are not speaking on the House floor in this climate talk-a-thon? Hagan, Landrieu, Pryor, and Begich, all red state Dems. Isn't this disingenuous to a degree for Democrats to do this, considering they could have possibly passed this legislation when they had control back in 2009, but Harry Reid was not willing to have a profile and courage for those members on the Senate floor, that this is more optics more than anything, that it actually afforded the chance? Would they actually move on this type of legislation?
I mean, Luke, you're right. I mean, the core of it, though, is that bill was not going to pass in 2009. Senate Democrats, there were a lot of Democrats, Sherrod Brown, Claire McCaskill among them, who would have voted against it at the time. It would not have had the votes then. It doesn't have the votes now, of course, either. So that's the core challenges. I looked at this poll earlier today. The Pew Center did a poll about what's the most important issue to Americans, and they found of the 20 issues they looked at, climate change ranked 19th in the public policy priorities. The big challenge is not that climate change is not popular among Democrats, but it's the voters overall who don't view it as much of an important issue. I think what you really have to see is, will Hillary Clinton or the Democratic candidate in 2016 and 2015 put this on the agenda, make it kind of their health care, the issue they're going to drive forward? Because right now, Americans aren't engaged enough in it, and one or 2 days in the Senate floor is not going to be enough to galvanize the public on this issue.
Erikka, do you see the beginnings of that sort of stirring of interest, renewed interest in climate change, though, on the left? Because it does seem like opposition to the Keystone Pipeline has really galvanized a lot of environmentalists on the left. You also see billionaire Tom Steyer willing to spend a lot of money pushing climate change, addressing climate change forward. So are we starting to see that new energy building on the left?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think another factor is kind of another generation. Even Republicans, 53% of Republican voters under the age of 35 say that people who are climate deniers are crazy. I mean, so this is really something that this younger generation is pushing forward. So you have, I mean, Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii is the one who's actually kind of coordinating and organizing this talk-a-thon. He's going to be there late in the middle of night, dead of night. The kind of worst time slots are going to be guys like Chris Murphy, Heinrich. It's going to be kind of really these younger members. So I think there's renewed energy with new members that are younger, that really kind of have grown up with this idea that climate change is real, that you need to recycle, that we need to be aware of it and talking about it, whereas some of kind of the other guys, a little a little, angrier, a little gruffer. I think their kind of frustration comes out, and they just kind of let it go. I think these guys are trying to find new ways to do something, so it is something that's moving forward.
Well, and Perry, climate change, or even just the mention of science, does not play well among the conservative base today. In fact, it reminds me of the 2012 primaries when my dad tweeted out about it, and many say this was the beginning of the end for the Jon Huntsman campaign. Here's what he tweeted: "To be clear, I believe in evolution and trust scientists on global warming. Call me crazy."
Get out of town! Get out of town!
Crazy.
Get out of town!
He is crazy, that man.
I mean, Perry, he was very courageous to tweet that out. I love my dad and loved him for that. But is there actually room in this conversation for Republicans, and who are these other voices?
Right now, if you're a Republican who wants to run for higher office or run for president, I don't think there's a lot of room for you to say much. You remember John McCain not that long ago was talking about climate change and being very involved in the issue. But right now, if I was running for president in the Republican primary, I would duck this issue, and that's what you're hearing the candidates do right now.
Yeah, remember that ad with Newt Gingrich on the couch with Nancy Pelosi talking about climate change.
And cap and trade was a conservative idea at one point, just like private employer health care.
Erikka, you got my mind going in a whole other direction. Every time you say "let it go," I got that song from Frozen stuck in my head. Thanks to my daughter, Erikka Knuti. Perry Bacon, thank you very much. Up next, "Don't call me Superman," says Pope Francis 1 year into his papacy. But like it or not, he could be the hero the Catholic Church needs right now.